celebrity circuit in America, and this is my opinion, it's just my opinion, is supposed to fill the void because we're not getting Spencer Crawford. Wilder turned down 100 million to fight for Undisputed at heavy. It was in America in an arbitration case where we lost the Undisputed heavyweight title fight between two Brits. We're not getting these fights. We have Tank, Haney, Devin, Ryan, all undefeated at 135. 4 undefeated fighters in the same weight class. And we haven't had a combination of any two in the ring. Jake has a role, but he doesn't want to play the role. He wants to act like a serious boxer while not facing serious boxers. When you're fighting undersized oppositions who ain't boxers, you're supposed to be looking for the knockout. While we can't get the world champions and the real contenders in the ring in America, you're supposed to be like the Steve O from Jackass of boxing, doing all types of mad stunts and not worrying about if I trade punches, I might get hurt. No, that's not your role. Well, what's the point, really? I mean, what are you going to try and do? Sell me Tommy Fury versus Jake Paul after their performances? I mean, who did Tommy fight? He fought a stripper, supposedly an MMA fighter, 5'6". His record is 0-1, but he takes Tommy the distance. You want to sell that as pay-per-view in America? It's going to start looking like privilege. As far as I'm concerned, until I see something different, the jig is up with the Paul brothers. I gave them a pass because they were supposed to be the alternative entertainment while we're not getting the serious fights in America. But watching Logan clutch onto Floyd, gassing out when he's way younger and a lot heavier, and then watching Jake, who was so brave against Ben Affleck or whatever the actor's name was he sparked out, or the basketball player, but when he fought Tyrone, he wasn't about that life. The way bigger man didn't want to plant his feet to land his power punches all of a sudden. Look, you can't be garbage, you can't be avoiding doping protocol, and you can't be fighting non-boxers and be way bigger than them and don't provide either excitement or knockouts. Something has to give. You can't have so much privileges. Now, I don't have no problem if he goes back down a level, back to Ben Affleck and rematches him and knocks him out another 50 times. I don't have no problem with that. None at all. But when you're going to try to sell him as something he's not, I've got to give you the real. And look, the charade is going to start pissing people off. You could at least give Tyrone a draw, but you had to let Jake win. Why? So everybody said, look, he's undefeated. He must be good. Look, you can't sell Jake Paul as the undefeated guy when he's not fighting real boxers. I didn't tell him or his brother to declare themselves as boxers. This is what they've declared themselves as. So I'm judging them by that. Simple as. I'm calling it how I want to call it, right? Mayweather does a lot of talking. A lot of you don't like it. You detract from his resume because of that. Well, I'm doing the same here. And they ain't nowhere near on the Floyd level. Jake talking like he's a knockout puncher. He's going to fight Canelo. You can't sell this guy as the unbeaten guy and you're not fighting real boxers. The unbeaten thing is reserved for the Calzaghes and the Mayweathers. That's why the Asian guy who was 49-0 at the same time Floyd was, I don't know his name and you don't know his name. Because if you look and compare the resume to Floyd's resume is way superior to that guy's. This ain't a numbers game, this is an entertainment game. And we got to make the distinction between celebrity boxing and real boxing. The moment celebrity boxing becomes a bore fest like what I saw on Sunday, we got to bring it to task. Call time on it, perhaps. Now, I don't think Tyson Fury versus Vlad was crazy boring, but then again, I've got a little bit of an odd taste on certain fights. It was a bit boring though, but this is real boxing. That's a landmark fight in heavyweight history. Tyson ended the reign of a 10-year champion. It's a necessary evil. While Jake Paul and Tyrone, because I'm not going to call him by his surname, I'm calling him Wood nothing, right? Now, jokes aside, while that card was in progress, I made a hangout and I titled it, Are You Entertained? Now, that Montana Love Baranchik fight, that was entertainment. That was entertainment. And it doesn't matter if you're some hardcore purist. If people are being genuinely entertained in exciting fights, then, you know what I mean? Like, who cares what you have to say really, or what I have to say? You've got to keep it real. And yeah, I fully understand it. It might not be a hardcore, purist boxing fan's cup of tea. I totally understand that. But Jake, to me, is breaking the silent agreement that I will tolerate him as long as he does what he's supposed to do. And I don't think he did that. I don't see the point of Jake Paul boxing if the fights are not either exciting or a freak show of some kind ain't going on. You remember Peter McNeely when he rushed across the ring when Mike Tyson came out of jail? Rushed across the ring like a mad person. Okay, he got knocked out in less than a minute or whatever it was, but his highlight reel stuff is funny. And let's keep it real, he was genuinely trying to hurt Mike. He really was. He landed a couple, but Mike weaved most of it and came back with his counters and got him out of there. All I got from Jake on Sunday was a big ass boy who can starch people who can't protect themselves in a boxing ring. That's all I got from him. Exposed. Yeah, I'm using that word. Exposed. But for those who don't understand what I'm saying, let me explain it like this. Mickey Ward and Arturo Gatti were never the top elite fighters of their time, but their trilogy has been immortalized because they were knocking the stuffing out of each other. And it's been immortalized by HBO. What, you think if they were fighting like Jake against Tyrone or Logan against Floyd, anyone would care about that? No, they wouldn't. Guys like Eric Butterbean Esch, they cut a niche out for themselves. And yeah, apparently some of the fights were fixed, but he cut an unusual figure with his rotund body shape, and there was a lot of knockouts. So maybe they need to fix the fights a bit better for Jake. Was that fight fixed? I don't know. There's a few dodgy red flags surrounding the fight. No testing, no pre-fight testing. Amanda Serrano, who was on the card defending her world title, she had testing. And Tyrone was asking, are you a drug cheat? He was asking Jake, pre-fight, are you a drug cheat? And Jake said, why are you accusing me something we're being tested for? No, you haven't been tested for it. That's a lie. And don't no one say, oh, they're going to test them after. The whole point is to test you before you get in the ring. Not after. It's the point of testing you after you killed someone, after you're juiced up to the gills on Jarrell Miller's medicine cabinet. What's the point of that? Woodley's performance was strange. He got hit by a flush left hook by Jake, and he just snarled at Jake. Jake, I don't think, maybe Jake inconvenienced him one shot through the whole fight, but he was never hurt, right? Tyrone looked like he wasn't even breathing, let alone breathing heavy. That's what it looked like to me. Maybe he's got a good poker face, but he looked like he had a full tank of gas in there throughout the whole fight. So after he hurt Jake with the overhand right, why didn't he press the attack? Was he carrying Jake with the promise of a lucrative rematch as long as he got I Love Jake tatted on him like Jake requested if Tyrone lost? Was he promised that? A lucrative rematch? Is that why he let Jake off the hook? When Tyrone hit Jake with the big overhand right and the ropes kept Jake up, why was that not scored a knockdown? Was Showtime a little bit hasty signing up Jake Paul? Do they have regrets right now? Because it's a credibility thing, isn't it? Did you purchase it? Was it worth the $60? Let's be honest. Unless you really love Jake Paul. Just love him, and as far as you're concerned, he could go down the strip and butt 300 people down and you still love him. You know, I thought there was some voyeuristic quality to what he was doing. But if you step him up, he ain't about that life. He can't fight nobody who has anything resembling a technique and a little bit of heart. He can't. This is a blatant money-making exercise, and it always has been. And some people have seen through that. Some of us have been a bit more naive and say, yo, let them go do what they're doing. But Showtime have to worry about dissatisfied customers. How much more of these can you put on before you collapse that pay-per-view format for good? Like, no, fuck boxing. I don't care what you put on, I'm just not going to pay at all. I'm not a hater. I can really see the game clear now. From my own perspective, I really can. And look, Jake has amassed a fortune already for a young man, right? I feel like I've been conned. And I didn't pay for the pay-per-view, but I feel like I've been conned. As far as I'm concerned, I'm not speaking for everybody. If you want to go purchase what he's selling, go purchase it. But as far as I'm concerned, you need to go back and do your gaming videos with your brother. But giving Jake Paul your hard-earned money for pay-per-view buys when we can't get Pro Grace and Mikey Garcia, when we can't get Spence and Crawford, when we can't get these networks and promotional companies to do cross-promotional fights across there. Showtime have been doing this since the 80s, man. I think if Jake Paul was doing what he was doing on Triller, I wouldn't have made this video. But now he's all up on the Boxing Network, where we've seen bona fide Hall of Famer ATGs operate on. And people are talking like he's really doing something. It's scary. Now it's getting scary. Now he's on Showtime. It's scary. I've said what I said, but it's not down to one individual's doings why boxing is in the state it's in. Yeah? It isn't. I know Floyd fought on Showtime against his brother and done a lot of pay-per-view, but that was an exhibition. These are actually professional bouts, what Jake is having. They're actually professional fights. This is professional boxing in America. And yeah, it wasn't too long ago that Eddie had Logan and KSI on DAZN. Now, to their credit, they put on a good fight because they were evenly matched. It was evenly contested. And look, the celebrity circuit, once it's got some controversy, some incidents, knockouts and drama, it will coexist with other sports. But when you get performances like that from Jake, I can see the argument that it's doing more harm than good. I can see it. I can see it more clearer now.
Talk about Tommy Fury and Anthony Taylor. The commentary team are asking Anthony Taylor, who is 0-1-0, a mixed martial arts fighter, apparently a stripper, 5'6", fighting at light heavy. And look, it's been done before by guys like Dwight Muhammad Cowie, but there are exceptions to the rule. As far as I'm concerned, Dwight Muhammad Cowie is one of my favorite fighters. I don't care if you don't think he's an all-time great or great. That's your prerogative. To me, he's one of my favorite fighters, an exception to the rule. How are you asking Anthony Taylor to feint and jab his way in and do all this when he clearly can't? He doesn't have the experience to do this. If you was to give Anthony Taylor a proper strength and conditioner, he'd be at least a light middle or middleweight. You know, and like Tommy Fury and Jake Paul are having training fights. Showtime are trying to pass off these fights like it's in the lineage of the catalogue of fights that they've broadcasted, Hagler Mugabe. And I don't know why I always go to Hagler Mugabe and the legendary fights. Even the fights they broadcast below that level, the fighters have been way more competent. Like if you go to the undercard on Hagler Mugabe, Richie Sandoval versus Gabby Canizales, Thomas Hearns versus James Schuler. These are undercard fights. Hey, but fair game. Frank Warren abandoned the card he had in Britain to be over in America with Tommy Fury. And they're promoting hard to get that Jake Paul fight. Frank is trying to come up with that Celebrity Love Island audience, which means nothing in America. I wonder if he realizes that. But at this point, it's just about business. It's not about boxing. It's got nothing to do with boxing. And like I said, if Triller are going to have that it's just about business market, I can deal with it because that's how they came into the game. It's just about business and entertainment, nothing else. But now, Showtime are getting sucked into the mix. Frank Warren's getting sucked into the mix. It's a shame he couldn't sell Lyndon Arthur and Anthony Yarde to Showtime. I just don't get it, Frank. You're supposed to have this relationship with Bob Arum. You can't get Lyndon Arthur and Anthony Yarde on ESPN? Now that would be something. Like I said with Showtime, they're in danger of just destroying the boxing platform they have there. It's going to look like a joke. People are not going to purchase the pay-per-views after a time because there's a good chance that the Jake Paul audience are going to get bored. They're going to get bored of all of this. They're not diehards. And what Frank has to realize, is for the long-term future of Queensberry. If you send Tommy Fury out there to represent British boxing on pay-per-view, how are you going to sell it Anthony Yarde or a Lyndon Arthur when you're trying to blow them up and get them onto the next level? I don't think he's going to hurt British boxing because we're going to say, nah, Tommy is Queensberry. He's not Matchroom. He's not Matchroom. But the Americans are going to be saying, is this what British boxing has to offer? Tommy Fury. He's not Tyson Fury. And let's not get it twisted. Before you saying, you're having a dig at Frank and bigging up Eddie. No. Campbell Hatton is awful. And they're putting him on cards like we don't notice he's there. No, we notice he's there and we notice that. He's not that good. But he's got to keep working at his game. You know what I mean? I actually like Campbell, so it's hard for me to go in on Campbell. Seems like a good kid. I mean, look what he's saying here. Frank Warren is eager to finalize terms for the fight to happen next. He reckons it could be heading over here in the UK. He's desperate to activate that pay-per-view platform of BT. Desperate. Understandably so. But, look, now a lot of you are like, oh, BT is bigging up Eddie. Nah, you're ignorant to a lot of stuff because all you do is hate and hate and hate, and you don't actually look at what's happening. Frank is always a step behind Eddie. Eddie signs female boxers. Oh, he's got Katie Taylor. I'll sign Nicola Adams. Now he has no female boxers. The same Nicola Adams, who a few years before he signed her, Frank was going back and forth with her because of the comments he said on boxing, and she responded. Now he's thinking about getting Daniel Dubois' sister signed. Eddie. KSI, Logan Paul falls on his lap, just puts it on. He's not chasing the fight at all. The fight's chasing him. Oh, let me put on Logan's brother with Tommy, but I'm going to chase it. He's chasing it. You know, truth, it looks a bit desperate, it looks a bit cringy. If an opportunity like that falls in your lap and it's easy to do, I can see, yeah, okay, but chasing it? Knowing Frank's career from the 80s like I know it? Like I said, I've sparred, and like if other people can talk, well, I used to box and so I know this. Well, I can talk about my experience of sparring and equate it to my videos to a certain level. Now, sparring is different than fighting, right? But sparring someone smaller than you with less experience than you enables you to look excellent in there. And it would only follow that logic would replicate itself in an actual fight. Sparring someone way smaller than you with less boxing experience. And that's an apt description of the fight between Fury and his opponent on Saturday. Jake Paul, he's been doing that as well, fighting smaller guys with no boxing experience. Now, apparently they're projecting that Paul versus Woodley is going to do big numbers, but without trying to sound like a hater, but not really caring if I sound like a hater. Unless the gaming community is really stupid and the boxing fans, the actual boxing fans in America have just lost the plot, I can see the expiry date on the Paul brothers as a boxing product. It can't be that far away. I mean, I haven't seen one video or one of the major American websites talk about any of the American Olympians. I know they didn't get no gold, but god damn, man. Most people, you know, well, I'm not going to say he's a household name yet, but a lot of people know Ben Whittaker in the UK. They know Ben Whittaker. Lauren Price, she got a lot of headlines on the BBC. Eddie invited her and the other girl who they were invited to a recent Matchroom card. I'm sure Eddie is trying to get them all to sign with Matchroom. Well, they wouldn't be there. Now, sometimes, you know, it takes people to go away to make you realize how good you had it when they was there. And look, I don't bullshit. I'm talking to mainly the black demographic who I used to talk to from across the pond. And how they used to shit all over Floyd Mayweather. And this is even before he fought Conor McGregor and Logan Paul. They used to shit all over what Floyd was doing. And I always used to ask them, and I never got an answer from none of them, what are you going to do when Floyd retires and you have to replace Floyd Mayweather, who flagships boxing? He's the flagship player in boxing. How are you going to replace him, and who are you going to replace him with? Who is there? Yeah, I find out now. Logan Paul and Jake Paul. At least that's what it looks like for now. A lot of them were very high on Keith Thurman. They would tell you that Floyd didn't give him an opportunity. Well, he didn't give himself an opportunity. As tough as it may seem, if he had fought Errol Spence on the undercard to Floyd when Floyd offered up that fight and offered up one of them belts for them to fight for, that was a great stage for him, but he didn't go for that. And yes, you can argue Floyd had to fight him, but Floyd was looking at the Manny Pacquiao fight as his career-defining fight more than Keith Thurman. He prioritized. And it wasn't an actual fight. It was outside the ring where I first spotted shortcomings in the makeup of Keith Thurman. I didn't see it in the boxing ring. I saw it outside the ring because I know these are key things. Multitasking. If you're going to be the flagship player, multitasking is one skill you have to be able to have. And you can say what you like, Floyd multitasked on another level. I'm not saying he's a fighter as Muhammad Ali, but he multitasked just as good as Ali. Floyd flagshipped the sport, promoted it globally, performed in the ring, earned bucket loads of money, and he done it over a long, long period of time. And I remember when Keith Thurman, I made a video on it. I was the only one who made a video on this. I believe it was the Robert Guerrero fight, possibly the first PBC card, 2015. He's headlining. Adrian Broner was on the undercard. So he's headlining, and that means he has to flagship the event. That means you got to be on the camera and you got to stay focused on your job. And I remember reading that Keith, not that he couldn't handle all the media, but he was very uncomfortable and he was complaining about the media this, the media that, and he was complaining about it. I said, see it there? Tell me when you ever heard a report that Floyd got frustrated because he had cameras in his face. Floyd was always smiling and always had answers, even if they were generic answers. He put them out there. Flagship the sport and didn't complain about it once. It's a dying breed. It's a lot of stuff that a lot of people overlook. I'm telling you, it's a dying breed. In a lot of regards, Floyd is from the same cloth as Muhammad Ali. I know you don't like me saying that, but yeah, he damn well is. As for the Deontay Wilder fan base out there, you comparing Ali to Deontay? No, you're way off base. That's something you want to be a reality, but it's not a reality. You're way off base. The costume was having a working president, Mark Breland. No. America will be lucky if they find another Mayweather in the next 5-10 years. You'll be damn lucky. They don't pop up every second, and you're finding it out now. No, I never boxed. I sparred a little, but I never boxed. But my intuition on a lot of things on the sport, especially outside the ring, normally spot on. Adrian Broner, Sean Porter fight. Adrian Broner told me everything I needed to know when I finally decided my pick on who's going to win out of him and Sean Porter. I can't remember where it was, but Mayweather was a part promoter, I believe, in the event. And then when I read, Floyd told Adrian to go and lie down and relax. You got a fight coming. And Broner defied him. I'm picking Sean Porter. I was always swinging towards Sean Porter, but I wasn't quite decided. I'm picking Sean. And I knew his career was going to go left. From that moment there, I knew it. And the same thing with Keith Thurman. I knew he would go missing. And what did he do? He started going on vacations and went missing. And plus he was injured, but he was going on vacations. Can't handle it. Jake Paul, he had a tough 8-rounder. He said, I'm going to go away for a little while, try and find myself, get to know who I am. These are false prophets. Like, you know what's laughable is people who say, oh, well, I can't consider Roy great because of the second phase of his career when he was getting knocked out. What a load of nonsense. Are we talking about the man who dazzled the Seoul Olympics with his boxing displays and got robbed in the final? The decision was so horrendous they had to change the whole scoring system because of him. We're talking about a man who started his career at junior middleweight and won titles from middleweight all the way up to heavy. Do you think the Russians make any and anybody honorary citizens in their country? People used to stay up in this country, and all of them were hardcore fans. They wanted to see Roy Jones fight. They wanted to see Roy Jones fight. The man is a walking, breathing legend. And he flagshipped the sport well. Man was playing basketball games before some of his fights. Brought Meth and Red out into the ring. That was a great entrance. Listen, when Roy spoke, he was always clear. concise, sharp, inspirational, positive, and a good listen. A flagship player. They don't come along every second.